Let's stick with the Lib Dems for a second. Never thought I would utter those words in my life. But I feel that given how well we're expecting them to do, actually they deserve a little bit more analysis. What do we know about their view of the various things that we often talk about on the show? Where are they on immigration? Where are they on borders? Where are they on public finances? Where are they on defence? Where are they on all these different issues that people who'd be watching this would care about?
Well, the Lib Dems are mainly prospering because the anti-Tory mood is so strong. So what they're prospering from is tactical voting in lots of seats where they are the only competitors to the Conservatives, or they're the main competitors. What are they standing for? I would argue hyper-social liberalism. Ed Davey has said he wants to push the pedal down on the gender stuff in a way that Labour are sort of trying to hold back on. They're instinctively very comfortable with migration, legal. They certainly wouldn't want to leave the ECHR. They are broadly content with the current tax and spending commitments. They worship at the altar of the NHS like everybody else. But I don't think they're a serious political party. I don't think Ed Davey is a serious political leader. I think the strategy through the campaign has been to use stunts to attract attention. But there's no niche issue that they are really able to benefit from, because that big call they had at the last election of let's rejoin the EU, well, that's not going to be an issue really for another 10 years, 15 years. It may come back, but not currently. So I think the Lib Dems are mainly prospering, like the Greens and Labour, from an anti-Tory mood, because there is no mass public enthusiasm for this alternative, because that alternative doesn't really exist.
Matt, do you not think that we're being a little bit overly optimistic about Labour's chances in the Red Wall? I mean, let's look at their behaviour historically. They have alienated this voter base over generations to the point where the unthinkable happened and Labour were wiped out in these traditional strongholds. Do you really think the pendulum is going to swing back that quickly?
But just be very specific. What do you mean by swing, right? So what I'm saying is, if you look at those by-elections, the Labour vote has often actually stayed pretty static. What's happened is the Conservative vote has collapsed, okay? Much of it has gone over to Reform. They're eating about 28% of the Conservative vote. Some of it has gone to Labour, but a lot of it has gone into apathy. Lots of Conservatives saying, I'm not going to vote at all. I'm sick of this party. Not going to vote at all. So the reason Labour is going to win back a lot of those seats is not because there's an upsurge of support for Labour, but simply because Labour support is staying pretty static and the Conservatives are collapsing. So that in itself tells you a lot, okay? I agree Labour have treated a lot of their voters historically with complete contempt. I think Keir Starmer is very vulnerable, and my personal politics on the table, I'm very concerned about where the country's going under a strong Labour government. Not just because of the things that we usually talk about, migration, borders, woke, but also because Labour are now going to rewire the constitution to be pro-Labour. Votes for 16-year-olds, reform the House of Lords, devolve more power, strengthen Scotland, Wales, devolved assemblies and parliaments, extend the quangos, extend the unelected, unaccountable government bodies. It's going to be harder for the Conservatives in the future to compete with that. And if the polls are wrong, if we're sat watching the exit poll next week by my friend John Curtis, and we find that there's a hung parliament, I haven't completely ruled out proportional representation coming into the mix in British politics over the next 5 years, because the Lib Dems want it, Farage wants it, the Greens want it, a big part of Labour's base wants it, the SNP would support it. I don't think we're done with that debate over electoral reform.
By the way, if the Tories get 40 seats, some of them are going to want it.
Well, I mean, like I say, the numbers this morning, you're looking at 40 to 50 seats for the Conservatives. My gut instinct is they're not going to do anywhere near that badly.
So give us your gut instinct on all the parties. What do you think, that just going by party, what do you think they're actually going to get?
Very solid Labour majority.
Bigger than 97?
Comparable.
Which was like overwhelming at the time, to be fair, right? It wasn't like an accident. It was like a huge majority.
I think, on these numbers, as I say, we're either heading into a polling error on the scale that the polling industry would have to pack up shop and basically go home. Like it would be devastating if there was anything other than a Labour majority at this point for the polling industry. So I think there will be a Labour majority. a significant, stable Labour majority, at least above 75, 100 seats, at least. The Conservatives, gut instinct, somewhere between 100 and 150 seats. I'd be amazed if they went down to 50. That's an extinction level event.
Yeah.
100, 150, very weak, divided, then going into a long leadership contest during the summer. You'll have about 15 people going for the leadership. Lots of those people will be unknown. The Reform Party, 1 to 3 seats, lots of second places. Farage will win Clacton. The Lib Dems, 40 to 60 seats. They'll say they're back, but everyone will know it's just because basically people wanted the Tories out. SNP, disappointing campaign. They'll struggle with Labour re-emerging in Scotland. That's where I think we will
Are
end up.
Greens going to get any seats?
They'll get somewhere between 1 and 3.
Because this is one of the things that we wanted to talk about. You mentioned the threat of radical Islam, and one of the things that's been boggling people's minds all around the country is you have seen Green Party. So the Greens traditionally are these like hippie, whatever they stand for. But nobody ever thought that they would have candidates like this.
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Now, I've never seen Caroline Lucas chanting Allah Akbar on being elected. So what's going on there, Matt?
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all. Green parties are notorious for being watermelon parties, green on the outside, red on the inside. But they've embraced woke identity politics. They've embraced radical progressivism. So you have an awkward alliance between
That guy didn't look very progressive to me.
white graduate liberals like Lucas and radical minority activists like that guy who are given a free pass by the woke less identity politics because they're a minority group and they're seen as being the oppressed and being seen as victims. We don't need to rehash a lot of the identity politics stuff. But that's why I've become increasingly nervous since October 7th, because it's that alliance between the radical progressive left and radical Islam, which are really feeding off one another. So the Greens are enabling a sectarianism in politics. And what do we mean by that? Politics being organised along the lines of race and religion in a way we've not really seen since Northern Ireland. And it's becoming embedded in lots of communities, particularly outside of London. So we have a campaign group that's now actively organising Muslim votes, trying to get British Muslims to vote along the lines of Gaza rather than on the lines of domestic issues.